Well, hello there. Good afternoon and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios in Kukumlimle on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. DSTV channel 421 is the channel and GoTV channel 144. Thanks for choosing us this afternoon. We are Joy News, independent, fearless and credible journalism. This afternoon, tensions over threats by Russia to invade Ukraine impacting heavily the global economy with the prices now of fuel at the 7-year high. In Ghana, new transport fares kick in a matter of days, but will just trigger widespread economic shocks sourced from the Russian-Ukraine crisis.
Russia's decision to formally recognize two regions that are part of Ukraine, another country, have been interpreted as going against principles like respecting the sovereignty.
Well, we have more for you on the Ukrainian crisis. We'll also be heading to Germany to bring you the very latest. Now, the Bankers Association say delays in procuring armed bullion vans to halt armed robbery attacks should be blamed on the Interior Ministry. Details ask the police for latest attempt by armed gunmen to attack a bullion van here in the Greater Accra region.
And we are back to 5 to 210. It's a pattern who say Bibi a blasty, Bibi a plastic poke, by neck as a can and a tap.
Well, we know that at least 3 persons sustained injuries from the exchange of gunfire between police and robbers. This afternoon, we hear from police and the Association of Bankers as they mount search for the gang on this matter. And in Parliament, there are tensions between the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, and his Deputy, Joe Wise, with some strong words from Mr. Bagbin this afternoon. Definitely, we'll get you all the latest. We'll hear from a governance expert on the implications of the latest happenings in Parliament. My name is Blessed Sugan. This is The Pulse, brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu, affordable safe sanitation. Remember that we are streaming live on YouTube and all of our social media handles on JoyNews on TV, and also tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sugan. Always a pleasure serving you here on The Pulse. Now, this afternoon, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says there will be a need for a clear plan to contain the undulating prices of fuel on the global market. Based on projections that fuel prices may remain high on the market, the Vice President is of the opinion that developing nations such as Ghana would have to take immediate steps and develop a clear plan to deal with the situation in order to avert associated economic challenges. We can now listen to the Vice President speak on this matter.
The effects of global warming are becoming increasingly evident as we have seen the changes in weather patterns and other natural disasters, both in their frequency and in magnitude. Whether it is in the ice melt, floods, drought, hurricanes, the impact is becoming more evident every day. Most urgent is the impact on agriculture, crop adaptation, and the entire food chain. It is becoming more urgent for us to take the necessary actions towards slowing down this dangerous phenomenon that puts our planet at risk. The obvious way to addressing this problem is by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which are the main cause of global warming. Ladies and gentlemen, it is estimated that the way in which we produce and use energy accounts for more than 80% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. Although we still need the energy to improve our economy, it has become imperative that we reduce emissions from production and the use of energy by replacing high-emitting fuels, particularly fossils, with sustainable fuels such as renewables. The end goal of such an effort is to achieve net zero carbon emissions. This effort of changing or moving away from energy produced from fossils to energy produced from renewables and other clean, high-efficiency sources is what we term the energy transition.
So obviously the Vice President is concerned about what's happening elsewhere, the external factors and how they're impacting on fuel prices here within Ghana. There's a need for us to have an understanding of what's accounting for this price buildup and why we seem not to have control over the fuel prices here in Ghana, and it keeps escalating. Joining us fortunately at this point is Barrister Tunti. He is head of pricing at the National Petroleum Authority. Thank you, sir, for joining us on the Pulse and helping us understand what's happening in terms of the external factors influencing fuel prices. First of all, what do you make of the points that the Vice President has raised, calling on stakeholders to try and strategize, develop a clear plan to deal with these matters? It appears we're having challenges
yes,
hearing
thank you very much.
Yes, precisely.
Yes, thank you very much, President. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. Indeed, what the Vice President said is right, and I think this is a time we should be looking at what we can do as a country or consuming nations to protect ourselves against this, the impact of the rising prices. I'm sure we have had several discussions, and the issue about what can we do, especially in the context of a deregulated market where government has stopped subsidizing petroleum products. It's important that we do everything we can to protect the consumer from having the direct impact, feeling the direct impact of rising price at the pumps. You would recall that just recently, about November, December 2021, and just January 2022, we requested for government to take off the price stabilization recovery levy. Clearly, just that's not enough. So it is important that we look at other measures to push in the country.
And that's where a lot of people out there have difficulties in terms of understanding what it is that the external factors are. Help us understand what happens elsewhere and how the developments on the global market trickle down into the Ghanaian economy and eventually influence fuel prices.
Okay, so if you look at the price formula, I think globally, including Ghana, one of the key components of the price buildup is the world market price. As you know, petroleum products are globally traded commodities. So everyone pricing petroleum products everywhere has to look at the international benchmark for the products. So this world market price is mainly influenced by supply and demand fundamentals. So anything that goes to affect demand or supply of petroleum products will affect the price of the petroleum products on the world market. In recent times, the main issues is a combination of factors. The current one, which everyone is following, is what is happening in Russia. Why is Russia and Ukraine conflict having effect on prices? Russia is a major oil producer. Currently, they are part of the group called the OPEC. Russia is not originally a member, but they have joined them, so now they call themselves the OPEC Plus, because the likes of Russia, who are not original members, have joined them. So anything that affects the supply of oil from Russia is definitely going to affect oil prices. Sanctions are likely to be imposed on Russia if they invade Ukraine. I think there are signals from the European countries that they intend to do that. So this is why the prices are rising, because anything that affects Russia's ability to export crude oil or natural gas to the European countries is leading to a shortage of supply of oil, and therefore prices will rise. Like I said, the price are a function of supply and demand. Anytime supply is short, prices are going to rise.
Such a disconnect there, particularly when you look at Ghana's economy. This is an economy that has oil at the base of its resources or natural resources. The belief is that at least as a nation, we should be benefiting from some of these raw materials. How come that the dynamics elsewhere is rather affecting us when indeed we have some supply here within our economy?
So first of all, we need to put the oil Ghana has into context. There have been arguments that Ghana is a net exporter of crude oil and therefore we should not be exposed to the impact of rising prices. But that's not how it works. The oil itself, like I said, is an internationally traded commodity. So the price at which you use for your formula will be based on the international price. So we would have to look at, if government wants to do anything, to have to look at what it gets from the oil it produces. So we produce roughly, if you look at the data from last year, Ghana produces roughly about 150,000 metric tons of barrels of crude oil a day. My checks indicate that Ghana gets about 18% of this, which is just about 27,000 barrels. As a nation, our daily consumption of petroleum products is over 90,000 barrels a day. So if you compare what the state share of the crude oil produced in Ghana is, and compared to our demand as a nation, it is way lower. So we cannot consider ourselves a net exporter just because we produce 150,000 barrels, because we don't own all of that 150,000 barrels. So what government could have done if it was even owned all of the oil we produce was to look at the revenue it generates from there. And either, like some countries do, lower the taxes on the petroleum products for the consumer, or say it will not tax petroleum products at all. Because remember that countries all over the world generate taxes from different products, and petroleum products are one of the main sources of revenue for most governments. In Ghana, government generates revenue from taxes. So we always have to put the product we consume here into context. What volume of it do we get, and how can that support the nation?
Besides that point, concerns have been emerging about the best possible strategy that government should be adopting now in terms of cushioning Ghanaians and also persons who rely on crude. What's the best strategy going forward? I'm sure that the NPA has been monitoring the mechanisms adopted so far. There are concerns about going in for more tax cuts. Some persons are of a different opinion. Where's the NPA's position in all of these concerns and perspectives that are emerging as to cushioning the Ghanaian?
So whatever NPA does will have to be in the context of the law. So the law will have to guide them too. As a regulator, I think I've mentioned before that we do not make fiscal policies for government in terms of where it raises its revenue from. We would have been happy if there was no tax on petroleum products at all, but that is not the reality. So the reality is that it's a difficult situation for government now. One, government needs to generate revenue to support the budget, and two, prices are rising. So would scrapping all the taxes of petroleum products be a reality? Is that feasible? I'm sure you would agree that that's not feasible for the government at this moment. And that is where NPA looks at the law and where there's flexibility to do something about it. So for us as a regulator, what we are focusing on now is that now that the prices are rising, we have to make sure that, as we always do, that the consumer is not overpriced in the face of this challenge. And even for the supplier of the products, that they are also recovering their investment fairly. Mind you, if the rising prices is having an effect on their ability to supply products, I'm not sure we would prefer not to have the product at all. We prefer to have the product and pay the right price for it. So for us, we have made some recommendations to government as to what it can do, but it all depends on the government fiscal space, whether it is.
And that's why I'm concerned about the recommendations. That's why I'm concerned about the recommendations you make to government on this. So many stakeholders have been preferring their best possible approach. What's that of the NPA in terms of the recommendations you're giving?
So like I said, we as NPA, we would have been happy if there's no tax on product, but that's not feasible. So for us, we look at what can be done, and what we did, for example, was to look at the laws available to us of all the taxes, which one could have been touched. And from the law, the price stabilization and recovery levy was the one that could have been used to support the consumer. But I think I've said this before again, that it also has limitations, because this price stabilization and recovery levy plays two important roles. One is to pay for subsidies on premix fuel and residual fuel oil. Premix fuel used by the fishermen, and residual fuel oil used by the members of AGI, Association of Ghana Industries, for production. So it was taken up for a while. It was based on our recommendation, but it cannot go up forever, because if it goes up forever, then it means that the ability for the suppliers of this premix fuel and residual fuel oil will also be challenged, because they will not be able to recover their investments. So where we sit, our work is to make sure there's fair pricing with regards to whether government is able to remove all the taxes from petroleum products. Right. Is another thing.
Indeed, there's more on this issue, particularly on the undulating prices and the level of uncertainty. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears we've never seen this kind of uncertainty before. It's the market, I mean, the issue of the markets, really. But how long are we going to stay on this, the consistent rise in the prices of fuel on the market?
Yeah, you are very right. We've never seen this steep rise in petroleum products before. Prices of petroleum products will always rise and will fall at a point. But for the past, if I'm not mistaken, for the past 6 months, it's been actually from the beginning of last year, it's been rising. But you see, there are a number of factors. From last year, the main issue was because economies were recovering from lockdowns. And when there were lockdowns, there was low demand for petroleum products. So when the demand was low, prices fell. And once demand was returning, the price were rising. Unfortunately for the global market, geopolitics set in, where we had the Saudis and the UAE and Saudis and the Yemeni Houthis having their own issues. I think that has calmed down. And we also had the issues about sanctions on Iran. Fortunately for the market, there seems to be some progress being made on negotiations between the US and Iran. So Iran oil is likely to come back to the market. The major issue now is with the Russia-Ukraine situation. We are hoping that this can also be resolved quickly so that the market will calm down. The OPEC and its members have promised to be increasing their supply by 400,000 barrels every month so that we can have more products in the market. So we are hopeful that if this Russia-Ukraine issue is resolved very soon, the market will come for the tension and the kind of speculation we are seeing to bring down prices. But the market this year, speculation is that the prices are going to be a bit higher than we had last year.
Unfortunate, but we need to brace up for more. I'm grateful for your time. That's Abbas Ibrahim Tasunti, who's head of pricing at the NPA. Fortunately, Peter Tekwe is joining us now. He's a policy analyst, understands very much issues pertaining to this energy crisis. But Peter, what's your take on this? The prediction is that there's more uncertainty and we're likely to pay more in the coming days. What's the way out, really? That's what we're looking for.
Yes, thank you very much. Indeed, this shows that we are not in normal times because we are facing a situation that is not peculiar to the past. We just started a year, and unfortunately, looking at the tension between Ukraine and Russia, the uncertainties surrounding it, shows that we are not going to get out of this soon, even though every effort is being made. But the issue is what is the way out, because we're expecting that in the next month or two, this can come down. But unfortunately, the way out then is that there has to be a sharing between the government and then the citizenry. And the sharing means that government will not, say that nothing can be done whilst price on the world market keep increasing. So there needs to be a stakeholder consultation between the BDCs, the government, and then the OMCs to see, because you see, the BDC and the OMC can only do something on their margins, because the cost is you can't do anything about cost. Then we have to share the margin. How do we share it? That is when government will decide to, alleviate the plight by...
So it's just like we're between a rock and a hard place. Quite an unfortunate situation for government. The point is that we're in a post-COVID period where most governments around the world are very much in dire needs of resources. So the funding, taxation will obviously be the priority at this point. Here we are in Ghana. We're producing as well, and yet we're not able to cushion our citizens. So are you predicting then that there will be tougher times for us as a nation?
That is a decision for government, whether they would like to still, let the cost be passed on to the consumer or not. Because don't forget that government is not losing 100%. We are gaining as well from what we are also, exploiting as well. Don't forget that, the government is out also making some revenue from the exploration as well. And so it is up to government to say that, yes, even though we are in tough times, when COVID set in, it was a tough time, but government was able to take some policy measures, was able to alleviate some of was able to introduce some measures to actually reduce the plight on Ghanaians. The same thing can be done now, and it cannot get, as the quantum cannot be as expected, but at least something to reduce it. Because look, if today price gets to 150, are we still going to say that nothing can be done? Of course, that's what they need to be. That's what they have. They'll be sharing at some moment. So the revenue you are getting versus the cost that is being passed on to the consumer, what do we do? At a certain, in the middle, there should be a win-win situation. And that is what I think that has to be done at this time. There should be a cost sharing. Of course, there should be a sacrifice. And definitely where we are now, someone must sacrifice, and especially on the part of government. And that is what needs to be done, because it will continue for a while. And once it continues, government cannot continuously be silent. A lot has been said of what needs to be done. We need some immediate stem solution to be able to just reduce the burden on the ordinary Ghanaian, because the impact of it is that transport also keep going up. And so will government say, because I need funds, I need resources? No, these things have a lot of implications on the economic.
Peter Tekped, certainly this is not the end of the conversation. We'll have to do this some time later, obviously, as the predictions are that the fuel prices will continue to surge. Now to the banking sector, the Ghana Association of Bankers is asking the Interior Ministry to fast-track its special clearance, which will allow banks to import armored vehicles to aid the transportation of cash. The appeal comes in the wake of the recent Bullion van robbery incident at the industrial area here in the Greater Accra region. The police service, in a release to the press earlier today, gave assurances that it has intensified efforts to get the perpetrators arrested to face justice. My colleague Manuel Kranting was at the scene and now reports.
At this intersection, which leads, if you like, connect the Kwame Nkrumah interchange all the way through La Paz. This gentleman who I've been speaking to off camera has been sharing with me, indeed, what they saw and how they were gripped by fear as the action was happening. He tells me that 4 people were on motorbikes, 2 motorbikes, just as the other incidents that we've seen with Bullion van armed robberies in the country. He we're told, is an operator of one of these machines. My boss, Pacho Bibia Boko. We are forklift operator. Pacho, and no, also now Hana BBSC. Now Hana BBSC. Okay, just catch me. Then Kasane, no who say motorbikes, say Diomechi, and then Kasane see. And we are back to 5 to 210. It's a pattern Asiana who say Bibi a blasty. Tinia can say be a cabin and a tire a blasty. Tia 2 2 3. Tinia sorry say a beche at the Kodia. So multi sound no say Bibi a plastic po. By neck as a can and a tapa. Tia na a 2. Omi mienu and Timoto mienu bako so. Tinipa 4. Ti bako fani say no started on fire sir and many pen about could be you need to free in the bag. When him just 10 meters. Okay. No, you need to. No, po fire can fire the bank. Okay, tell you to no fire can. Bullion van no, a white one, one company be. Of fire sir, fire o boy mo. No who said no said no and ye tobacco no fire says and fire driver no. Na driver no move can slow down kakra many happy. To happen no move car no corner him. No shoot to driving mirror until driving mirror on pen a pie. Until now police back could be war other bank be war. I know who's somewhere I know no so fire. To a fire is no who's no said the corner no then I'm telling you hona away bus into I'm telling you no yin helmet no. I know fire or to the 20 train so I say. I know fire so to me Daniel Mona poa omokoe. Is it nipa me and say be prior and I'm prior no to no a boka no ho na attend a boka no na attend ti ba ko no gina ya na ball ni kotodwe na ba ko so ball ni na ha say na ba ko so ball ni kon ho I am nkrofo amoni omoti ha ya ba ko de obe to aduane di na ba ko so oso anema wo inside ha say ti mienu de om so anema wa ha. So he's just been explaining to me in Chi that 2 motorbikes approached the Bullion van with 2 people sitting on each of the motorbikes. That's 4 people. Now they got off the motorbikes, fired several shots into the Bullion van, and we're told that this Bullion van is actually armored, and so the bullets could not penetrate the van. And when they realized that they actually intended, according to him, intended to fire the shots into the windscreen and get at the driver, but it took the intervention of a police officer, as he's just telling us, who was on duty at a bank just close by, to return fire. That is indeed, according to him, what warded off the robbers who had already shot into the crowd, injuring 3 people in the process. Na yeah, omo candidate da form. Bi ade da fam wa ha. Ye de omo pattern sin no bi ada form me dwane machine ba ko achi wa ha se. Ti omo ye na no omo ko no moto no so na enko speed nti. Omo ko do down ho no omo de etu no hye omo bag no back. Na omo ko boko. Nti omo ko na me ko catch police ni say
cartridges ni bi gugu form ha say nto me say no see no kra ne dey fire in egu ho no nti no me mama mo bi ansesa cartridges no no mo beba ti o mo ba ya na me directly place no so o mo ko no mo ko hu place no ho no na mo ko hu no nti na no dey see no and I say nkan ni nyina ebe wu ha because ana tam mo ye no come about 12 o'clock and call nipa bebrebe because that time na companies no mama break go inside kanya sa na ka tam mama break na nkan nipa bebrebe.
So let me just speak to a few of the other people here. But also now we have Tama Adenisi. Now we have.
The under the member meti but ma mejuma. Di ha ma mejuma.
How about Juma?
Da bi me ba ha na me ni ha.
Now we ni ha no. Okay, let me speak to this gentleman. Now they ha.
Ndra na yeti ekire ha sei. Ntitam na ye nyina ti pepepe no bi atati so ye den. Odwane. Nti ye nyina ye warte so bi abefe be bia ye den afa. Ntetuo ni de edi echi saa kodu sandboard na ewo ha na se ntamani
na no mo fire na edi
fire no some oto a epem ka na aslepinte slepe na ye den na epeti ntedidi echi saa de ye den edi kodu sandboard na se wo no nto na ehun se omo obi edwa na enyina ye di obi apebe bia ye den afa nti once na ehun se police no wa ha se no so dremika ebeta na yi ne cho no sa start ye den fire bandura Bullion ban ne de police ni no timini so any driver ni do mu bia ni obi edo no ntesanya police ni we dan kam ye sure sanka bi o medi e kire saa de akoni bo mu police ni na mom ye de o motan ne back ndura
na ne hanom nye easy kra
ndura na ha ne de ndura na sa Afghanistan no ko na bomb na ekoso bullet na ekoso ande na no wo hye meja ben ne ye hu bi de nti ye nyina obi ape be ya de apre ne nkwa banyame ne da na asese ndura de we koye na nya black time de ha nka ndura nka nipa be wu ha no nkanye nipa kotoa
I say ma we nya ade we etaisi wo hanomo
me dia me ba ha de me hu se bi esi wo happen this the first time me hu se bi aye dey e bi esi e wa ha sei
iti no mo amote hanomo sa no mo then na mo back because enye Bullion van dia enye amod Bullion van na mo kra na anka tuo no rem mu
one dey say the way here no omo to na nka ene na maka nipa mi inside the nipa mi nipa na come kra which say omo we inside na ka nipa mi no na ne ka obi so ba ko ye dewa ti nipa na ka no wa kra na man bi gina ha na ono na no sesa roba ma oto no ho kra to man no so wa ma moja nyina ye man na tade mu ha ndura
Obeka se bank for no mo use Bullion van na eton rem no bi no
omo nyina use a eye ba de mesa ne nkra de man penifo no se esoro wofo no ye pa mo chom nsimbla mehwe fomfo no na edidi jawe ene muna na ede ene muna na nam ekom di nipa ne nko ade a ono to de kwan bi o fa to no so be de obedidi no ono so be fa to be de obedidi nti omo a wasoro no nsimfo platform na ye so ye wa ha no mo ma ebi ne yeso ye nya den na ye ndi na wo soro na wedi no aye peche ne yeso esi ya na sa kom de nipa ne nko ade a ono so kwan bi ato ne be fa so ko nya nipa ne menya so ta ne peche adwuma ye so ye den oye no bo ono so kom de no ono so pre kon ma fa no so be de obedidi nti esoro wafo no ono so mo nsimla platform no mecho ye fomfo no
it's for Eton Ediane. So he's just been telling me, of course, describing the situation that happened yesterday, and also adding that but for the Bullion van, indeed the casualties would have been more than expected. Indeed, we're told that this Madam na Ohana Adenisi and now we're doing nasa.
Oh, na me te ha didi.
No, we did.
Oh, na me didi. Na me buying so the inside. Nti ayeti a
bucket wa.
Yeti a de na efi say knockout. E na me kwa me ka say na knockout be ni. Nti e wa na nti say de dey pay bebre. Nti o me yesa na obi adwane. Nti me ko inside for me ba ni say me adwane. Nti e no na me hu say de na e pete ba ha nyina.
De na e pete.
Bullet no.
Bullet na pete say nsu eto.
Ko ni ba ko to ha no.
Anyway, so just showing me there's the cartridge really.
Eto inside or when na we inside or. Nti oni timi dwane pie no lucky ka ebeka no. Nti me so na me ni choice bia le me se me cheko.
Na onso wa ha enno atime yade ni si.
Me enno na ma point me park me ne man di ko si ho. Nti na me baba na guy bi nsisa wo me nche nti obeje ye. Na me ni gina ho ya kasa. To twa kwan ni mu. Na brother ba ko so ba wo manim ti me gina ne na e bo nkomo. Na abibi to ye. Em se to bo fom. Nti ebubo ne blast ne ba ko be bo me nan. Na me say car ben and the tire paya e yi abubo abebo me no. Station obi ka say Hwan Roberts. Ti me tani me say no mu ki ti oni gina so. And then yasem.
Makuma tu ye.
Eh, makuma de tu ya ngasa. Nti papa na bra na me feel nche ono ba say no. Ka me na me gina hwanka we ni bebo me. Ti oni bo bra ne nan. And America de e fa ne kwa.
Na to me to America.
You to America pa. Me ko America ngasa. Nyame nko a we die me hu bi da. Ha omu di amanfo sika ba tuo die. Ba tuo we die anu ye den.
Ade esi akonfo gen amanfo sika.
Omu di amanfo sika pa omu hwim any bag ba tuo say die. Be nra de I am surprised.
Me hu na bo ha say no. Etuo pa no nti sleeping one na abo ho no. Nti senka eye normal car bi a nka betete no. Ti na no. Nra de
ene mu gina hani na che se ka okra na wo she tire bo a se sa be wa pete
eno no ne case ani ewom sese because enra no se de ko bae no obi a ye kekra ba je se me de na se na Nyankopon don because se de na me ben no na me ben ne pa na nim no be yi tuo se na o shoot kan sa nti oya enfa no na odane no ho na we su be gina ni se na we be yi helmet no ma nim oyi helmet ni se na started the 20 chire so ha se etu am de bae no AK magazine ye 22 no makeka bom no mabaneji magazine ye 2 bia ye 2 no mabaneji say no e she 2 back.
Well, obviously a very disturbing scene there, but the latest incident actually questions an earlier directive given by the same Ghana Police Service in June last year, directing all banks to provide fortified vehicles by the end of 2021, but that seems not to be working. In fact, the police service earlier today indicated in their statement that they are going after the perpetrators to ensure that they face justice. But there's a need for us to expand this conversation and look at issues surrounding Bullion van security and how the banking sector is going to adjust themselves to that. In fact, they've been asking for clearance from the Interior Ministry to deal with all of these issues. Fortunately, we've been joined by Dr. Adam Bona, who's a security analyst, understands quite a lot into these matters. So thank you, sir, for joining us, and such a pleasure for having you on the poll. So very disturbing scenes we have there, obviously endangering public safety. How long should this be going on? And why are we not, in fact, putting an end, from your perspective and from your reading into this, why are we not able to put an end to this consistent attack on bullion vans across the country?
Well, good afternoon to your viewers. I think it has to do with policy, framework. Before, we started seeing increasing number of attacks on cash and transit vans. It wasn't that way. Movement of money was as, we didn't have that increase. But unfortunately, it looks like the numbers started going up probably in the last decade. And therefore, probably we should have put in the legal framework, to ensure that importing these bullion vans and storing them and using them was done according to a certain regulation. That we don't have. And that is what is actually delaying what do you call it, the importation, bringing in. Because these bullion vans, the armored plated bullion vans, in simple security terminologies, we call them war materials. You can actually use this equipment or these vehicles to fight any war, to go into any war, and you could win. And therefore, if the floodgate is opened for any Tom, Dick, and Harry to bring them in, and then I will tell you that anyone who wants to topple the government of the day will do that easily, because assuming you have 10,000 bullion vans, armored-plated bullion vans brought into the country, like you said, they fired at the bullion vans and the bullets were deflected or didn't penetrate. It means that, and these are, AK-47, according to bystanders, those who were there. If you know the power of AK-47, shot at point-blank range, closely, and the impact, the damage it can cause, and it didn't go through. It tells you that if you had a number of these bullion vans in the hand of the wrong people, chances are that we'll wake up one day and they've taken over.
So you are even providing a very great insight into this. Initially, many of us were going with what the Bankers Association was telling us, that there was a delayed clearance for the importation of bullion vans, the fortified vehicles, into the country. But you're giving a security dynamics to this.
Yes.
So you're indirectly supporting the Interior Ministry for delaying the process? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not supporting. What I'm saying is that in as much as we want to ensure that cash in transit and those who are transiting them are safe and the general public is safe, let's hasten slowly. Let's not quickly say, oh, we need them.
We need the vans. So you feel the vans will not entirely solve the problem?
It could rather, if we don't put in the...
But this was a recommendation coming through from the Ghana Police Service itself in June last year, when it directed the banks to get fortified vehicles. That was the term they used, fortified vehicles, or else they were not going to provide security.
Ignore that directive by the Ghana Police Service back then. Because you just can't say people should bring, you know, armored-plated armored vehicles when you don't have a regulatory framework in place. If they bring them in, they could topple any civilian administration, even a military administration. And so what I am saying is that I support the fact that the process should, you know, they should quicken up. The Ministry of the Interior should quicken the process, you know, work on it quickly and get it done. But we shouldn't be calling for, you know, everyone to bring them in when we don't have, at the moment. If you bring them in, where do you keep them? For instance, we have Montran. Montran, we have, I think it's one of the few companies that have them. They have a secured location where these are kept. Because if these armored, you can see from the eyewitness account, the escort in the vehicle, the Montran staff, the driver, and all the people who had the money with them in the armored vehicle were not hurt. Assuming a bad person is in possession of this vehicle, you could enter any of these banks in this country, steal from the bank, and run off, and nobody can stop you. And so mine is that, yes, the Association of Bankers have a legitimate concern. Those, I mean, all of us have a legitimate concern. Now let's get the Ministry of the Interior, you know, to quicken the process, ensure that they put in all the measures. But as far as I'm concerned, if they don't put in the right measures and these things, the floodgate is open. You know what, Blessed? We are going to...
Interesting perspective there, but how then do we deal with this problem? Because we obviously have a problem at hand. This is not the first time we are recording this incident. The last one was very gory. In fact, a police officer was shot in the process. Thanks being to the new vehicle or fortified vehicle that the bank was using, another police officer would have been shot. So what's the strategy? What's the effective way of dealing or putting an end to this?
I think the effective way of dealing with one, I mean, the short, medium, long term, is to get the legal framework, because people have imported some into the country and they are at the port. They cannot clear them. So let's get the legal framework put together quickly so that those who legitimately want to bring them can bring them. Then moving forward, whilst that process is ongoing, intel, I always talk about intelligence, because you have too many firearms in the hands of wrong people. And once you have too many firearms in the hands of wrong people, then you are going to have, you know, these incidents like this. And so mine is that the current police administration is doing very well. So you can see in the past, the police officer who was guarding that bank would have hid himself. But this time around, he was confident enough to come out and also start shooting. In the past, they won't come out. He will tell you, my area of jurisdiction is supposed to be at the bank. So he won't come out. But now he did. And I, before probably coming here, I spoke to the police administration, and the promise and what they said was that they are on the heels of these people. They are going to get them arrested. And I believe that they would get them arrested. And they are currently doing very well. And so it looks like violent crimes are dropping. But mine is that this issue of bullion vans should be handled carefully. The Association of bankers or something should hasten slowly, because in as much as they want to carry customers' money, we don't want them bringing in these armored-plated vehicles, and if we are not careful, tomorrow we wake up and we are told that...
Let's try and reconcile the position now. In fact, you're referring to the police statement. You've spoken to the leadership of the Ghana Police Service. They are assuring that, yes, we'll deal with this matter. But at the tail end of the statement they issued, there was an indication clearly that the IGP was still calling on banks to go ahead and get fortified vehicles. So which means that the police service is not backing down on that stern belief that going in for armored vehicles will be the best way of solving this problem.
Which is true, yes. They shouldn't back down, but mine is that the stakeholders should come together quickly, because I know the draft policy document is ready. I mean, I'm privy to a draft policy document that will see to the importation, storage, because, you know, where you are bringing them from, where you store them, and how you use them is very important. And who is going to use them? And so I think they've been working around the clock, and the police have their rep on, you know, they are, in fact, this is going to be actually, I think it's going to be managed by the Ghana police, because they are the foremost security institution for internal security. So this is going to be managed by them when it becomes a law. But I would say that yes, the Interior Ministry should quickly get this done, but there shouldn't be excessive pressure. Rather, what can we do as of today? Because I can see, I don't support the idea of seeing 8, full-geared military officers, military officers, following some 20,000 in some pickup.
Right.
You want a situation where you have intelligence-led cash in transit business, so that the bad guy is arrested at home before he comes to attack. Because at the end of the day, even if the law is passed and they bring them in South Africa, I think this is common, but still they manage to break through and steal.
Right.
So mine is that we need to find a middle ground. The middle ground would be that the Ministry of Interior, the police, and all the stakeholders should quickly, quicken up the process of getting these things done.
And I guess it's time now for us also to look at the concerns about security generally within the country. Your verdict is that crime appears to be on the decline. But what's staggering is that just this week, this is not the only robbery case we've heard of. There was one on the Kumasi highway stretch. And the very shocking revelations we are getting out of that is that some eyewitnesses tell us that the criminals confess to the economic hardship within the system as the reason or the factor for which they are going after people, robbing them and denying them of their properties. What's your take on the economic situation that we have now and your predictions on what it will mean for Ghana's security?
Obviously, we are all impacted by the heavy-handedness, we are all faced with when it comes to the economic situation. Buying fuel, I think is now...
It's gone up.
It's gone up.
We're breaking
you get it.
Right.
And so obviously, once you begin, if you see what is going on in Eastern Europe, the Russians and the rest, all these things would affect us. Obviously, we've had COVID and all that. That shouldn't be an excuse. And so usually when you see a situation like this, naturally, crime rate will go up. But fortunately,
So you're predicting that crime rates, the rates may go up, given the current economic situation?
It would have gone up if not for the current police administration. Just, I think, last week, 4 armed robbers were shot in the Buno area, one of the Buno regions. Four of them. I think the police haven't put out yet. And so now they are catching them. If you see the bad guys in the Nima, Bruhaha, in the past these guys would have just walked away. But the Bom and Kumoji, all of these people have been arrested. And so mine is that, yes, we are going to see some crimes, but generally because of the way the police is now operating, catching them before they come out to strike, it's going to be very difficult for them to come out openly to do this. In the past, you are traveling up north and you would face probably 10, 15 highway robberies. Now the numbers are coming down. And so mine is that the Minister of Finance, he should see to it that he shouldn't wait for e-levy, because he is saying that he needs money to do ABCD. Criminals will not be waiting for you to resource or pass e-levy before they strike. And citizens, when we come under attack, obviously we would complain. So mine is that even if it is left with his last penny, he should resource the Ghana Police Service and the other security agencies. Because then if he doesn't do it and he's waiting for e-levy, the more he waits for e-levy and the more the police and the other agencies are not resourced, then chances are that you will call me in here again and say, but you said crimes are not going to go up, but the truth is that crimes are going up. Because if the police is not resourced, then we are all going to be impacted. It used to be 4 or 5 violent crimes in Accra about 2-3 years ago.
Right.
Now it's all come down. You hardly would hear, daylight robberies like the recent one, even though I don't think it's going to go away. It doesn't matter what. Right. It's not going to go away. But I think that there's been significant improvement.
You seem to be expressing so much confidence in the Inspector General of Police and also the administration by extension. What more do they need to do to consolidate this new approach, this new police service that we're seeing?
I think what they need to do, they need a lot more human resource. Because whatever the case is, you might have the best of equipment. If the human resource, if you are incapacitated in some areas, then you have a challenge. They were given our 5,000 quota, to recruit. I think they are almost done with that. Some of us are advocating that the numbers should go up to about 10,000. That way, the shortfall, because whether you like it or not, some of them will die in the line of duty, some will retire, some will resign, and some will be fired. And so every year they have plus minus 1,200 or so living. What do we do? So I think that the recruitment, they should look at it. Apart from that, training. If you look at what happened in Tamale, Lamashegu incident,
yes, the police
it speaks
incident.
To training. Because the police officer who was trigger happy, police officers, apart from probably the American police, whose first line of whatever they are thinking is usually in their gun and not to usually. But police officers usually are trained not to pull the trigger first. Under extreme provocation, right, they are not supposed to pull the trigger. But you look at what happened in Tamale, these were trigger-happy police officers, ill-trained, and so training and retraining. And apart from that, welfare. Some of us have been advocating for officers' welfare. Police officer is deployed, no proper accommodation. Right. If you don't give them proper accommodation, I mean, the guy is distraught. You know, some time ago, I think 2020, 2021, suicide among police officers started going rising. Now, because now confidence level, their confidence level is going up. And so, as far as I'm concerned, these are some of the things, apart from probably call them, they themselves, their attitude, because bribery and corruption is still very high among police officers. Right. Because if you stop me and take 5 cedis from me, I'm not going to respect you. Right. I would want you to stop me and say, I've broken the law, you caution me, and the next time when you get me, you prosecute me before the law court.
How about the issue of outstanding cases which the Ghana Police Service is yet to resolve, very high-profile killings that has been on the hands of the IGP? The concern is that he needs to solve the puzzle. That will engender some level of confidence within the Ghana Police Service. What do you think the IGP should be doing at this point?
Well, what I think the IGP should be doing, which I think they have been doing in the last few months, has to do with improving upon informants' payouts. Because the more informants believe that if I bring you information, I get something and you protect me, the more they come to you with a lot of intel. Right. And I think they so far, I equally work with some of the informants. Right. So far, they give tips and they get the little they have to get, which is good. Apart from that, if you look at the issue of JB Dankwa, Ahmed Swale, right, you can, the lists, goes on and goes on and on and on. Usually, when officers who are handling this case are transferred or are taken off the case, it sometimes stifles whatever investigations whoever might have started. And so mine is that they would have to bring some of these officers who have started or who started them, unless of course they have a belief that that officer is incompetent. Right. But if there was somebody who was competent enough and was handling it, bring the person back. Cold case, if you go to other places like Britain, like America, you have a cold case, officers. Right. Their job is to look into cases that took place 50 years ago.
So many years ago, right.
We should have something like that. And so probably if the IG and his people are listening, if we don't have a cold case desk, let's have them, resource them well, pick intel from among the people, because when a crime is committed, those who commit the crime are usually living amongst people. Somebody will know something, but they should believe that when they give that information, they will be protected and they are going to be probably rewarded. And so for me, yes, I will go with the IGP should, get some of these cases resolved.
Reactivated. Right.
I mean, I think some of them are in court, some of them are dragging, and I don't know why they are dragging. Is it that the evidence is not there? So I think that they should quickly finish them, bring finality to them so that probably the citizens would be a bit more confident in the police. And I'm saying I am confident in the current police administration because myself and my team at the Institute of Security Safety Policy Research, we are conducting, police performance index survey amongst police officers. It's a novelty. Usually, these are people, if you want to bring Kwesi Fori into your studio, I'm sure you know the wahala you go through.
Right.
So we are conducting a survey to see how they themselves feel.
Right.
And the responses we are getting now looks refreshing. That it looks like
So they are beginning to gain more confidence, self-confidence.
Exactly.
Getting more assured that they can go out there.
And you can see what happened in the Western region,
right,
where the Western region
was able to
accosted the chairman of the Security Council in the area, and he said, well, you can't do me anything. In the past, he would quail back because he knows he will transfer you to NG. You can't do jack. Right. And so this speaks to their own self-confidence and belief that probably now if I do it, no one is going to come after me. And you can see high-profile people have been locked up, and
so from your initial findings, political interference is no longer a case for the police service?
It's still there. It's still there. I can tell you in confidence, I can tell you that some of these high-profile people who were picked up and locked up, if you see the number of calls that would come in to the police administration, I mean, you saw it. I mean, where people started blaming the IGP and insulting and saying, you see, all these things are political interference, isn't it? Allow the police to do their professional work. You know what? If the police don't resolve these things, the sanity, don't clean up the mess, 2024 is going to be bloody.
That's your prediction?
That's my prediction. But it is good that both NDC and MPP are getting checked by the current police administration. So that if you misbehave, this is 2022. They get you arrested, lock you up. If they take you to court and you are remanded, the heavens will not break loose. Hell will not come down. And so mine is that the media, all of us should ensure that when the police get it wrong, like they did in Lameshigu and other places, we tell them in the face. But let's not allow. Because as for political interference, the Constitution makes it possible for these things to happen.
Right.
But if you have a leader or a leadership that says, well, if you guys want to interfere, I'll resign, then chances are that you stay away and let them do their way. So political interference is still there, I must confess.
Certainly we'll keep our eyes on this, but I'm grateful that you've been able to join us, Dr. Adam Bona there, with his perspectives on the recent happenings. We'll be taking you shortly to Parliament because there are tensions between the Speaker, Alban Kingsford-Bagbin, and his Deputy, Joseph Osei-Owusu, with some strong words coming through from the Speaker of Parliament. We'll take you there shortly. Stay with us.
The first Deputy Speaker has contended, and rightfully so, on several occasions, that he is not the Speaker.
Welcome back to The Pulse. Now, Speaker of Parliament Alban Kingsford-Bagbin is expressing displeasure over the penchant of his first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Owusu, to override his rulings. The Speaker described the action of his deputy as unconstitutional, illegal and offensive. The minority in Parliament yesterday raised a similar concern when the first Deputy Speaker decided to reject a motion filed by the NDC MPs requesting for an investigation into government's COVID-19 expenditure. Speaking at the start of today's proceedings, Alban Bagbin revealed that a meeting will be held among the speakers to ensure such practices do not recur.
Another issue that requires addressing is the decision of the first Deputy Speaker to upend my admission of the motion and rule that the motion should not have been admitted in the first place. Honorable members, it is interesting to note that this is the second time the First Deputy Speaker has taken the chair and has made a ruling which in fact was to overrule a position I had earlier on established before the House. In fact, the First Deputy Speaker was in my office. And what I'm telling you today, I told him before he left to the airport. The First Deputy Speaker has contended, and rightfully so, on several occasions, that he is not the Speaker. I have also, on several occasions, alluded to various areas of parliamentary practice, where when the Speaker is in the chair, makes a ruling, another presiding officer may not overturn that ruling. My former statement on the matters arising from the budget and captured in paragraph 46 read as follows, and I quote, "Honorable members, although outstanding orders are silent on this, many standing orders and rules from several sister parliaments provide persuasive rules which suggest that when deputy speakers or acting speakers are in the chair, whatever happens in the House is that officer's responsibility. And the Speaker cannot be called upon to overrule it. Similarly, the reverse is also the case, that when a Speaker is in the chair, whatever happens in the House is the Speaker's responsibility, and the Deputy Speaker or Acting Speaker cannot be called upon to overrule it, unquote. That was what I read to the House that day. The penchant of the First Deputy Speaker to overrule my rulings is, to say the least, unconstitutional, illegal, and offensive. Be that as it may, I shall not be taking any steps to overrule the decision of the First Deputy Speaker to dismiss the motion as moved by the Honourable Ranking Member of the Finance Committee. The Deputy Speakers and I will deliberate on how to present a more coherent and uniform structure in respect of rulings so that the House is guided at all times during deliberations. Our standing orders provide the procedure for challenging the rulings of the chair, and those aggrieved by the rulings may take the necessary steps. The proposers of the private member's motion may thus be guided by the standing orders of the House to right the wrong. I hope this is understood. And I repeat, I hope this statement provides a much needed clarity on the matters of dispute that arose yesterday. And I hope we can forge ahead for the common good of the people who have entrusted us with leadership and a mandate to better their lives. The standing orders will guide those who brought the motion, and the proper thing will be done for the House to consider the motion. Please, it's not only you, members of Parliament, who discuss national matters with me.
Well, the Speaker of Parliament also threatened to compel the Marshals drag out MPs who are in breach of parliamentary proceedings. The noise in the chamber, according to the Speaker, often leads to misunderstanding of proceedings. In his view, the first Deputy Speaker was misled into allowing the private member's motion on the inquiry be seconded before the objection could be taken.
There is no parliament that I know when the Speaker is talking, members are also talking. Speakers are heard in silence for good reason. And as I read this formal statement, you come to understand why I have said what I have said. Parliaments I have traveled, witnessed, read, and at least I think I know a lot that you may not have gone through. What is happening in this parliament is completely unacceptable. And I'm not sure you have appreciation of the temperature of the country. Neither am I sure you know the arduous nature of the responsibility that have been placed on your shoulders. You are all mature adults. What I'm talking about is still happening. The Marshal Department, get ready. I'll be compelled to get a marshal to get people arrested and sent out. You are saying, hey, Parliament is not a place for joking. It's a place for business, serious national business. The Parliament we are in has never been in Ghana, even Gold Coast. This is a different type of Parliament. We must be prepared to change, to accept the decision of the people and work together. You make me sick. Will you shut up? You rule out of order in the House.
Well, obviously, the Speaker of Parliament is not happy there about what's happening, but the minority in Parliament is also cautioning the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, against misleading the public in its quest to approve the controversial e-levy. According to the NDC MPs, claims by Mr. Ofori-Atta that the only way government can release adequate funds for the district assemblies through the passage of the e-levy is untrue. In the view of the Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, the District Assembly Common Fund has been in arrears since 2018. Addressing the media, the Tamale South MP asked Ghanaians to dismiss the claim by the minister and accused him of insincerity.
He is reported to have said in the Upper West region that pay e-levy for me to be able to pay the District Assembly Common Fund. Ghanaians should dismiss him with utmost contempt as an insincere minister who is not upholding the values of the provisions of Article 252 of the 1992 Constitution, which requires that 5% of total revenue is dedicated to the District Assembly Common Fund. He is in arrears from 2018 to 2019 to 2020 to 2021. He is in arrears of over 2,133,000,000 Ghana cedis. Yet, he has been collecting revenue. And just a dedicated 5% of that revenue, as is required of him by the 1992 Constitution, he has not made it available. That is why many regional coordinating councils, district assemblies have become dysfunctional, because they do not have the basic resources to run effectively. So he should stop misleading the Ghanaian public using District Assembly Common Fund as justification to impose e-levy. They have also made very strenuous and ferocious effort to say that e-levy is mentioned in the NDC manifesto. I say authoritatively, electronic transfer or electronic transaction levy of 1.75% only got introduced in Ghana the first time by Ken Ofori-Atta, nothing more. If you have any page where you see electronic transactions or electronic transfer levy of 1.75% of the NDC, share it with me. And he is not the only person globally. So he has a record. Nowhere in the world have you had any introduction of this levy even at 1.75%. When he says our neighbors, Kenya is not our neighbor, Uganda is not our neighbor, but all of them are within the limit of 0.5 to 0.2, even as this is failing them in those jurisdictions.
Well, so that's the Minority Leader Haruna Idrissa there. Well, in the Ashanti region, the regional chairmanship race, Wontumi is denying buying nomination forms for polling stations, which is to influence votes in the Ashanti region. The regional chairman of the New Patriotic Party is defending his decision to buy the nomination forms and block for all polling station executives aspirants in the region. Bernard Ntwi-Bosiako has shot down criticisms that the move could influence delegates and give him unfair advantage over other contestants in the regional chairmanship race. He tells JoyNews his re-election as the regional chairperson of the NPP, which is the electoral world bank of the party, has already been decided by delegates based on his achievements for the party. According to Chairman Wontumi, he has financially supported the organization of polling station elections across the country since 2012.
It has been a norm that Chairman Wontumi, every 4 years, I buy for the polling station forms for the polling stations, you know, and I buy for the constituency. Even some, I buy for different regions. Last 4 years, I buy for Bono and I buy for the northern region and the Volta even as well, you know. So if I'm a player, then what is my interest in the other regions? And also, I also have supported to the national. In 2015, when we was going for to do the national election, that time we was in opposition. I give them 1 billion. Today is 100,000. I'm just pleading, if anybody who thinks he's going to compete with me have money to donate, you know, I think it's a time if you want to compete. You know, it's about what you have done and what you want to do. It's a different thing. Donation is different and going to serve also is different.
Meanwhile, Mr. Ntwi-Bosiako is promising to support any of his opponents who would be elected regional chairperson of the New Patriotic Party.
If we go and God did not give it to us, you know, did not give it to me. Anybody who has opportunity, okay, I will support the person. But bear in mind, I came to be a chairman when MPP was in opposition. And then I have favor from God and man. And when we came, okay, we won the power 2016 and 2020. This is the trump card. It's not about the money. It's about winning the power. It's about the winning.
Even if you don't win the regional chairmanship position, you continue to support the party, serve whoever is chosen.
Obviously, I'm born, my blood, my bones, my hair, my nails, my everything, my eyes, my mouth, everything is MPP. MPP is bigger than me. I will say what I have to say to people. But if I say it and the people say no, it's this, fine. It's about what you have done. And the people, they know. They have already made their decision already.
The acting Tamale Metropolitan Director of Health, Dr. Hilaris Abewu, has raised concerns over absenteeism amongst the nurses in all 52 health facilities in the metropolis. He said only 1/3 of the staff go to work regularly. He said the sick visit 3 facilities and there is no one to attend to them.
Speaking on a panel discussion at the 2021 Annual Performance Review meeting of the Tamale Metro Health Directorate on the team improving the quality of routine service in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, the role of effective human resource management in the Tamale metropolis. Dr. Bewu cited a health facility only 18 out of the 60 health workers attend work regularly.
Generally, only about a third of the people who are on our payroll come to work regularly. In one of our healthcare centers, we had about 60 staff on duty, on roll. If you do an analysis of the attendance, it's only about 18 people that come to work regularly, which means the rest, 32, virtually don't show up at work, but they get paid every month. The situation is very similar across all the healthcare centers. It is time, therefore, for all of us to put our heads together to address these challenges so that we can all be assured that should any of us develop an emergency here in this room and rush to any of our healthcare facilities, our facilities will not be the reasons why we die prematurely.
The health director for the Kumbungu district, Dr. Barkisu Seydou, attributed some of the challenges the health sector in the region is facing to what she described as poor job description.
How many of us here have been oriented on work, or have been given some orientation about transfer, posting, even the very work you do you have any job description? Who received this appointment letter with a job description? So sometimes that is where the problem comes in. You fit into the system and you observe there are so many wrong. So we've seen so many wrong things happen so much that we think that is a norm. And so anytime a manager fails to grant it, the manager is being seen as being very wicked or does not want to comply. I've heard a lot of names. The manager is seen to be very, very difficult. But sometimes when you engage even the very staff and you try to explain to them some of these issues, they begin to understand you. But then there are millions of others. If our own staff do not even understand these policies, how do we expect other stakeholders to understand this?
The health director for the Tolong district, Dr. Osman Seydou, raised concerns over maldistribution of staff, which he attributed to interference from politicians and traditional authorities.
The only problem is there is maldistribution. And these are some of the reasons why there is maldistribution. There is serious interference from our traditional leaders and also our politicians too. And the third thing is within our own selves, we have conflict of interest.
A video showing a Togolese priest torturing 2 Ghanaian women at his camp has sparked anger amongst authorities in the northeast region. The 2 women from Sakogo in the East Mamprosi municipality were accused of being witches and forced to the camp to participate in a ritual test that will confirm or deny the allegations against them. The disturbing footage intercepted by JoyNews showed the priest standing and strangling actually the 2 women with a broom before dragging their bodies on the floor to force them to confess. The attention of the authorities was drawn to this video after a woman was banished from the Sakogo community following her refusal to go to the camp after her name was mentioned as an accomplice by one of the accused women. JoyNews has learnt the case has been referred to the Mamprogo overlord, who has since ordered the immediate release of the woman from the camp. Correspondent Elias Otanko reports.
It all started with a pastor who held a so-called deliverance service last week in the community and in the process accused 2 women of being witches. These women refuted the allegation, but as the norm in the community, they are demanded to face a witch doctor or spiritual priest for a ritual test to prove or otherwise the accusation. To do this, the women were taken several miles away to the camp of a notorious priest in neighboring Togo instead of the Gambaga Raners Palace. This disturbing video you are about to see, intercepted by JoyNews, showed the moment the 2 women arrived at the camp. In this camp, unlike in Gambaga, where only a foul is needed to determine the innocence or guilty of an accused person, the process is done differently, mostly through physical torture by the priest. Here, if a victim pleads guilty, she is immediately handed back to her accusers. On the other hand, if she pleads innocence, the priest must exact a confession from them by any means possible. In this case, both women maintain their innocence and so must participate in the ritual test. The first woman is made to face the shrine while on her knees. The priest appears from her back with two brooms which he binds together across her neck and presses firmly and hardly until she's almost unconscious and forced to confess. The woman is released immediately after the confession is exacted. The second accused appears, and the process is repeated on her. Samson Lar is a local expert in witchcraft. He's the current coordinator of the Gambaga Witches Camp. Hear his analysis of the video.
In the process to confirm whether the woman is really a witch or not is what you just saw. They use a broom, they talk to their ghosts, and they use the broom on you. If you are able to come out of it, it means you are not. But if the broom handles you, you could see in the video what they are doing to the women. Some almost even died. And that is when they will now ask you to say the truth and be free. Is that what we want? I ask myself a lot of questions. Why should Ghanaians, who say they are better off, now you are going to Togo for this dehumanizing something? What kind of life is this?
One of the women allegedly mentioned her sister's name when asked about her accomplices. The woman, however, refused to go to the camp, citing personal feud with her sister. Her refusal angered a section of the residents who stormed her house to attack her before she was timely rescued by the police. The woman is currently taking refuge in Nalergu.
And now the man forced the woman to accept that she was a witch and told her, you have accomplices. Who are those people? Then this woman said, yes, unless I see my sister, I will not say anything. Now they also sat in Togo and now gave order for the woman to come. And this woman opted not to. So his son rushed to the police commander in Northeast and reported this issue. I was happy that the police intervened and rescued the woman. She was even in a hotel for about 5 good days. I took the MC to pay through the social welfare for the woman to be there, because the woman has opted not to go to Togo.
The police investigating the matter has declined to comment, as well as the regional minister, who earlier had agreed to speak but has since been unavailable. JoyNews has also learned the matter has been referred to the Nairi for a resolution. However, this is not the first witchcraft-related controversy to involve this Togolese priest. In September last year, he was arrested by Togolese security for torturing and collecting huge sums of money from over 20 Ghanaian women from the Nakanduri area.
In fact, I'm calling on the government to rise up now to look at these things properly so that we don't go through this. Our mothers are really in trouble.
Reporting for JoyNews, Ilyas Sutanko, Sakogu.
Now, poverty remains a major stumbling block in reducing cases of teenage pregnancy in the Volta region. Available data indicates that the majority of victims were lured into relationships leading to sex and pregnancy through financial support. According to the Ghana Health Service, 2021 recorded 6,408 teenage pregnancy cases against 6,144 in 2020 in the region. There's more in the following report, but by Fred Kwame Asari.
So me too, I said that I don't want to get pregnant. I said that we should have sex.
Esinam narrates how she was lured into sex by a commercial motorbike rider who promised to take care of her. She said she had no choice but to accept his proposal since she can't provide for herself due to poverty. Esinam dropped out at the junior high school level after childbirth.
And I said, me, I don't want to get pregnant. I've told them earlier that I don't want to have boyfriend. If it will teach me to know my subjects or it will take me as a girlfriend, then I should go to my mom's house or we should not date again. So now, when we have been dating, I've completed the GSS. Just help me to provide me some of my needs for the SS. So me too, I see that this guy will help me. So me too, we have been dating. Now the baby come out of it.
Aku explained her mother gave up taking care of her, forcing her to cohabit with a boyfriend, resulting in pregnancy.
Yeah, guy that come. But me a friend.
I met a guy who expressed interest in me. I asked him if he would be willing to take care of me until I graduate from senior high school, should I agree to his proposal. He gives me 10 cedis daily and provides all my needs. And so I moved in with him. When I was about to go to the second year in senior high school, I got pregnant. But I persevered and continued my education.
Such happenings are dotted across the Volta region, where young females give themselves to men in exchange of money for upkeep. The Ketu South municipality alone recorded 809 cases of teenage pregnancy, being the highest in 2021. According to the Ghana Health Service, 2021 recorded 6,408 teenage pregnancy cases against 6,144 in 2020, representing a 0.8 increase. Stakeholders expressed their worry at the Regional Child Protection Committee review meeting. The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, acknowledged the challenges and called for a collaborative effort in dealing with child protection issues.
On board. It's a main challenge we have in the Volta region, like other parts of the country. Volta region is no exception when it comes to challenges to the girl child or challenges to the boy child. It's very important that we always put it on the front burner and continue to think about what to do to protect our children. Somebody said we have a child mothers. Now we have children having children. Now we have children having grandchildren. We have children having grandchildren. So it's the responsibility of all of us.
A security task force against illegal mining led by the military is actually combing the Nabroso community and other areas in the Punya district of the Ashanti region to destroy mining equipment on illegal sites. The exercise forms part of government's program to end illegal mining, which is destroying water bodies and lands in the country. More than 17 excavators and a number of Shamfa equipment have so far been destroyed in Wednesday's exercise. Emmanuel Bright Kweku joined the task force and now reports.
So the exercise started about 5 a.m. here at Ntobronso in the Echuma Mpunya district of the Ashanti region. And when we came here at first, the military told us that these people, the illegal miners over here, had an intel that they are coming. So we didn't meet most of these illegal miners over here. But equipment that were found on site have been destroyed, have been set ablaze by the military officers over here. So as you can see behind me, that is one of the Shamfines being set ablaze by the military officers. And so far we've been able to destroy or set ablaze 17 excavators. I'm sure the numbers are even more in other adjoining communities, but here at Ntobronso, we've actually set ablaze about 2 of them. In other areas, there are about 9 and 6 of the excavators that has been set ablaze by the military officers over here. Reporting for JoyNews, my name is Emmanuel Bright-Kweku.
And now we can turn our attentions to what's happening around the world. Tension remained high in Europe after Russia's decision to formally recognize 2 separatist regions in Ukraine. What's the reaction and what has it been so far? And what does this whole crisis mean also for Africa? Let's cross now to Thomas Sparrow, correspondent with our partners DW in Berlin, Germany. Thomas, first of all, what are the implications of Russia's latest move to recognize 2 separatist regions in Ukraine?
This might sound like a conflict far away, and geographically it is far away from Africa, but it touches on fundamental political and legal principles of countries worldwide that are seen as key to guaranteeing a peaceful coexistence. Russia's decision to formally recognize 2 regions that are part of Ukraine, another country, have been interpreted as going against principles like respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of states or committing to the peaceful settlement of disputes. This interpretation is what has led the EU, the US and other countries to impose sanctions on Russia.
So what has been the response so far, and what kind of sanctions have been imposed?
Well, there is concern about the possible implications of Russia's move, and it's a concern that goes well beyond Europe or the United States. One of the most powerful statements shared widely even here in Europe actually came from Kenya's permanent mission to the United Nations during a Security Council urgent meeting in which the ambassador precisely stressed that these key principles have been undermined. Now, beyond statements, the preferred action against Russia have been economic sanctions on individuals and organizations, such as banks, as well as measures to hurt Russia's ability to finance its military efforts. Germany also froze a key gas pipeline connecting Russia and Germany.
And tell us more about this measure that you are talking about by Germany. How big of a deal is it?
It's been described as the most controversial piece of infrastructure in the world right now. An $11 billion pipeline under the Baltic Sea ready to send Russian gas directly to Germany. But German Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced the project would be frozen in response to Russia's latest moves in Ukraine. It's certainly a risky decision. There are concerns that gas prices could increase and that not only Russia, but also Germany could suffer economically. There are discussions about what this could mean for Germany's energy security. But the immediate importance of this decision lies in the political message that it sends, one of condemnation to Russia and at the same time one of support to Germany's allies. For a long time, the US, but also various European countries, had been critical of this project because they believe it leaves Europe vulnerable and it would give too much power to Moscow.
Thomas Sparrow there with the latest on the Ukrainian crisis. This is The Pulse. We'll return next with sports. Stay with us.
Welcome to Sport on Pulse. My name is Nathaniel Atta, and of course we're in the Champions League season, and that means that we'd want to talk about the big fixture for tonight. Out of the 2, Manchester United versus Atletico Madrid is sure one that everybody will be focusing on for various reasons. Now, in this first leg, it is expected that there will be loads and loads of stiff competition. Of course, in the other fixture, Young Boys Bern, of course, let me just give you a bit of a background as we go along as well. Now, in the Champions League group stage fixture against Young Boys Bern, the Reds drew 1-1. And then the hosts came into the clash off the back of a convincing 3-0 away win against Osasuna, ending a 3-game losing streak. Now, Diego Simeone will be hoping that Saturday's morale-boosting triumph can give his side some impetus as they go into the game tonight. Well, let's look ahead to Manchester United versus Atletico Madrid, definitely a top liner tonight. And joining me in studio is Joy Sports' Mubarak Haruna to look at, the calculations and what could possibly happen tonight. Joy Sports' Mubarak Haruna is here with me. Good to have you in the studio.
Pleasure.
Let's get into it. Now, Manchester United are looking forward to possibly doing what Chelsea are used to doing, which is when they're not necessarily in the best of form, they'd want to do and make a lot of impact. Now, you're also looking at an Atletico Madrid side who are still knocking very hard on the doors of the Champions League. And now they have to face a very stiff test in Manchester United tonight.
Yes, the game is very difficult to predict beforehand because it could go either way. We don't know what to expect from both teams. They are not really good this season. Atletico Madrid, they are having a patchy season, turbulent season at some point, torrid season. But they've qualified to the knockout phase of the Champions League. They are facing a United side that also are struggling at the moment. Even though in their last two games, they've been able to pick up wins. But they have to do more. They are facing a very good Atletico Madrid side. But hey, this is a game that United can go into the game full of confidence because they have the players who can deliver. They have Mr. Champions League, Cristiano Ronaldo, who has shown that he can score against Atletico Madrid. He has scored 25 goals against Atletico Madrid with 5 assists. That is a goal involvement more than any other team he has faced, Cristiano Ronaldo. So for me, I think if he will start, he's going to cause a damage. Of course, he will start. I don't see why Rangnick should bench him. He will start. And when he starts, he's capable of terminating the defense of Atletico Madrid with extreme prejudice.
Let's throw the focus on the words of Bruno Fernandes earlier today. Now, he says that they're going in with a certain amount of hunger and they want to deliver tonight. Now, you place it against Atletico Madrid, who also have even bigger hunger, because when it comes to achievement on the stage of the Champions League, it's definitely Manchester United who are up there.
Yes, but Atletico, I think they will understand that they are underperforming this season because as a defending champions of La Liga and about half of the matches are being played and you are in 5th on your league log is definitely not something to write home about. But for United, they have no chance of winning any silverware apart from the Champions League this season. They are out of the Carabao Cup, the Premier League title. They are about 17 points behind leaders Manchester City. The FA Cup, they are out. So realistically, even though it will be difficult to win the Champions League, they would want to give a good account of themselves in the competition and maybe secure a top 4 spot. So I feel United, what Bruno Fernandes said, he's right, because that is the only chance they can prove themselves this season. They have to beat Atletico Madrid and go far in the Champions League.
Well, caretaker managers normally may not have a lot of time to make impact. How would you assess Ralph Rangnick and his time so far, and what he's done and how it can impact on tonight's game, psyche-wise for his players?
17 matches, 1 defeat only. So clearly the numbers they speak for themselves. Now, you talk about his impact in the team. The players, suddenly, they have an identity. Because under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, their defense was not solid. It was very disorganized, embarrassing at the back. People break them down very easy and they concede goals. Even though they still concede, but they have some mentality of not crumbling whenever they concede. They are confident in the game. Even if they are pegged back, they know that they can score goals. And even when you have Ronaldo and Jadon Sancho, Bruno himself in the team, when you have these players, clearly you have an advantage.
Does that mean that we're not giving Atletico Madrid any chance at all tonight?
Yes, because when you look at their record, even this season's Champions League, Atletico Madrid have not won a home game in the Champions League this season. They lost to Liverpool, they drew with Porto, they lost to AC Milan. And United have shown that they are no respecter of home grounds. And that is why I'm super confident that United will go there and then claim the maximum 3 points, because they are armed enough to get that result.
If we're pushed a little bit, where would we want to see the goals come from? Of course, like you said earlier, Cristiano magic can happen any day, at any time.
Yes. And the reason why I'm even tipping United again is the injury concerns of Atletico Madrid. Apart from Luis Suarez, who is capable of scoring, he has scored against Manchester United, at Barcelona, and even at Liverpool. The rest of the Atletico team are not so solid. Griezmann he's doing well, but he's off the ball. Yannick Carrasco has been suspended for this game. Their captain, Koke Resurrection, is on the sideline. He will not be participating in this game. So they've lost some key players. And you know Diego Simeone's side, what they do best is to defend. But this season, this Atletico Madrid team, they can't defend for their lives. They always concede. They've conceded 34 goals in La Liga this season. That is definitely not something to write home about. And when you have Cristiano Ronaldo facing him, clearly he's going to terrorize this defense. He's going to prey on them in a deadly fashion.
All right, so Ajax and Benfica face each other tonight in the other fixture, and of course we're going to be bringing you all of the big highlights. So Mubarak, thank you so much for the time, and let's see if all of the analysis becomes reality later tonight. And of course there'll be live commentary, radio commentary on Joy 99.7 FM with George Addo Jr. and the rest of the team. So you stay with us, of course. Later this evening we're going to bring you some more from the world of sport in the main bulletin on JoyNews Prime. In the meantime, you click on the sports page of myjoyonline.com for more. My name is Nathaniel Atta, and I have love for sport.
And that's all time will allow us here on The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. With me, Blessed Sugan. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. We have more stories there for you. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz.